Man, I always get hiccups during these.
You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
I'm Bree.
And I'm Rachel.
Today is an adventure in Lutheranism.
Yes, like literally.
Literally an adventure. I love these episodes. We get to dive into some topics that some of us might be very familiar with, maybe too familiar with, and other people may know absolutely nothing about. Today, we get to dive into Call Day, which is a very important day in the lives of our seminarians, including pastors and vicars and deaconesses and all of those people who receive calls from our seminary. And Bree, you're going to be our, I want to say expert, maybe guinea pig. I don't know what to call you for this one.
Field expert, field reporter.
She's our intrepid explorer on this adventure in Lutheranism.
Call me Sacagawea or something. No. So my husband Matt is in his second year at the seminary, and for those who, well, I'll just give you the rundown. So for students who have entered the seminary and are getting their master's of divinity in divinity, it's generally a 4-year. The traditional program is a 4-year program. The first 2 years of your seminary studies are just like your run-of-the-mill, like classroom study. You will have like residential fieldwork experience, so they'll give you a fieldwork congregation to work at on like Sundays to help with leading worship and sermons and Bible studies. And so that practical aspect is one piece of the seminary experience. The third year of the traditional route of seminary is what is called the vicarage year. And that is sort of a year-long, what I would call more immersive experience than like residential fieldwork, because basically what happens is you can be placed pretty much anywhere in the United States where your husband will, where the pastor will, I'm sorry, you're going to have to edit this part out here, whatever, where the student will be placed to have an even more in-depth parish experience before returning to seminary to complete his 4th year, which once that happens, he will then receive his first call and then graduate and go out into the ministry. I do want to be clear because there are sticklers out there for this. I am talking today about Call Day, but my experience is as a second year's wife going out to be assigned on a vicarage. The issuance of vicarages and deaconess internships, if you are a deaconess student at the seminary, is not technically a call. And my husband made this point to me that it's not technically a call to the holy ministry. It's basically it's a fieldwork assignment. There's not really anything. I don't know.
It's an internship.
Yeah. I always refer to it as an internship when I'm speaking to non-Lutheran friends who are unfamiliar with that, vicarage experience. Sure. It's also useful to, say that not every church does, vicarages and first calls the way the LCMS does. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I've had friends who went through seminary as, say, evangelicals, and oftentimes they're on their own when it comes to getting into ministry at a church. It's much more of a traditional hiring process. Whereas in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we've said we don't want this to be a traditional hiring process where a church says we're looking for this position and, 50 candidates apply and, then they interview and all of that. That's not how this works. And it's certainly not how it works for seminarians coming out of the seminary as newly minted MDivs or as future MDivs as vicars, that we want that element to be sort of stripped away and this to be something that is a church, a church thing, a calling to this work. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Matt is getting his vicarage assignment. So this is airing when? April 30th?
Yes.
Matt has just gotten his vicarage assignment.
Matt has just received his vicarage assignment. So call day.
Congrats, you guys. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations, future Bree.
So call day, I guess I'll just call it call week, begins April 26th. I believe the call services and assignment services at Fort Wayne are the 26th and the 27th, and then both call service and vicarage assignment services at St. Louis are on the 28th. So he and I are tremendously excited. This year has just flown by. I do want to speak a little bit to like the vicarage selection process. I don't know too many details about it, but this is what I know for those of you who might not know how it works or might have more interest in how it works, or your husband is a first year or he's entering the seminary and you want to know what to expect. So for vicarage, it seems to be a pretty simple process, at least as the seminary student and his family are involved. And Rachel, I don't know if your experience at Fort Wayne was any different when Ken was there, but basically, Matt and I interview with the director of placement, Dr. Glenn Nielsen at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis. We interview, we kind of talk about what Matt is looking for in a vicarage experience. And then we meet just about monthly for a series of informational sessions. Sometimes we'll talk about stuff like the LWML came and did a presentation, LCMS Youth Ministries. So Meredith Whitefeld and Juliana Schultz were at the seminary one night. I got to catch up with them because I hadn't seen them since pre-COVID, which was pretty neat. But we also do delve into topics like power dynamics and sex in the church, and ways that you need to be presenting yourself to your congregation. Like we literally had to go over a slide that was like, please shower every day and brush your teeth and wear clothes that don't have holes in them. Like,
wow.
Like, I love that so much.
Big ups to Ruth Ann Johnson. May she rest in peace. That was her idea, apparently. But yeah, I mean, they're very informational. They're very helpful. Sometimes there were some heavy topics. And I think this is kind of where I was hit with my first reminder of, this is not all fun and games. It's going to be great. It's going to be an awesome, formative opportunity for my husband. But Satan is still out there prowling like a lion, and is very real. And, we need to be sort of on our guard against that. But all that to say, I think it's still very important to be mindful of those things going into it. I think the most important part for us, the most significant part for us thus far was the actual interview, because it really helped Matt and I determine what we really want in an internship experience. So based on the information that we give him in these interviews, along with what churches will give him in terms of what they're looking for in a vicar, he'll basically see, okay, who's compatible with who, what are people's preferences, what can this church provide, what kind of experience can this church provide them. And I think he basically, to put it kind of crassly, he plays matchmaker to the best of his abilities, given the information that's been presented to him. What I didn't realize also, while we're talking about churches who are doing this and giving their expectations, it is a gigantic financial investment for congregations to have vicars on a routine basis, well, just in general, you're basically compensating somebody for like a full-time job on your staff. Mm-hmm. It's not like we can send a seminary student just anywhere to serve the role of vicar, because it is a significant expense that the church takes on in order for this seminarian to have this immersive field experience.
And bless them for making that investment in the future of the church. It's just, I'm blown away by how willing and eager our churches are to welcome vicars and their families.
Yeah, we just started having vicars. We've had field workers for a long time because we're very close to the seminary, but we just started having vicars last year. Was our first one, at least since we've been members. And I remember going through that voters meeting where we talked about the budget, and the vicar is a new line item. And I was slightly taken aback for just a minute, and I was like, oh, like we are legitimately hiring another staff person, but that is awesome that we're financially able to do that as a congregation, to bring a seminary student into our congregation to support them during this year, and to be able to have that relationship with a seminarian and his family is just, it's really cool. And this may be getting a little ahead of your storyline, Bree, but to be able to have a seminarian come in at the beginning of the vicarage, and like you kind of get to know them a little bit. They might be a little awkward or a little unsure of themselves, and to kind of watch that growth over that year, and before they leave, to see how much they've grown into this vocation, and just to see where they've come from, it is such a privilege for us as a congregation, and for us to have that relationship then with the seminarian. We're gonna, I mean, this is always going to be their vicarage congregation then.
Yes.
To have that initial congregation of support. It is so cool.
And we still keep in touch with people from our vicarage congregation. That was like 17 years ago now.
Wow. That's so cool.
You know, we still love each other. And that experience has been so wonderful to look back on.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you guys to have that experience.
I know.
Bree and Matt
I'm
are
so excited.
going on vicarage.
That's right.
Yes.
So to sort of wrap up what the process looks like, after Dr. Nielsen in our case, once he sort of places people wherever he thinks the fit will be best, he'll then submit those to each of the districts, and the districts will come back and say either, yes, we'll accept this, or they'll say something, I don't know if it's like a return or what it might be. But by and large, the acceptance rate is a majority of the time. And then on call day, that is when the vicarage and deaconess interns assignments are given, as well as the assignment of calls. I'm sure the process for calls is a little bit different than the vicarage process. I'm sure it's a lot more involved.
Stay
talking to
tuned.
more people.
2 years from now.
Right. 2023. Stay tuned 2 years from now. Exactly. And so there are these like big worship well, they're not big worship services, or at least haven't been the last couple years, but it's sort of been that way with like pomp and circumstance and heraldry in the years leading up to coronavirus.
Except better songs than pomp and circumstance.
Except better songs than Pachelbel's Canon in D or whatever.
And I love that about the way we do these assignments and placements, because you know, it has the potential to be sort of like NFL draft day.
Yes.
But no, it is a worship service at which, in between the reading and preaching of the word and the prayers for everyone present and for the church universal, then you receive these sacred assignments, these sacred callings that, and I think to put it within that context is exactly right. Even if, Bree, I'll just tell you right now, you will not remember a single word of the sermon for either your vicarage placement service or your call service 2 years from now. You will look back and say, wow, I wish I remember what the preacher had talked about. But no, all you'll be thinking is, can we wrap this up, please? I want to find out where I'm going.
Is that a challenge?
Challenge. Bring a notebook, take notes.
They do that after the sermon and not before.
If it runs long, I'm going to be like, like I'm just gonna cough really like loud and suggestively. They're gonna like, get this lady out of here. I don't have time for this. So as joyful and exciting and eager as events like this can be, I also know that it can also give anxiety to people. I know that pastors and their families, like the uncertainty of it all can drive people absolutely insane. And so I don't want to talk about this whole entire thing without acknowledging that this is actually a very scary time for people. It's a scary time, whether it's the seminarian himself or his wife or his family. I mean, this is somebody who has entered into this relationship with the church, that it's just another step of, thanks for coming along for the ride these last 2 years, honey. Now we got to pack up everything that we own and move across the country for another year, only to have to pack it all up again and move back to St. Louis to do another year before packing it up one more time and going to. So this is actually like, I think the most tumultuous time, I think, in a seminary family's life, because this is where all these transitions come, one after the other. And so for me, I don't know if it's because I have specific experiences and perspectives that I'm not that worried about it. I'm not that scared of it. Of course, the day could come and I wake up on April 28th and I'm like, oh,
I don't know. You've talked about feeling like you need to barf quite
I
a
need
bit.
to barf.
Like,
for someone who's not scared,
I feel like I have to barf a lot. No, but like it's not always, this is not always going to be a joyous experience. And I think sometimes we even like to poke fun at those stories where, seminarian gets called to Siberia when he, wants to be in California or something. And the wife is in hysterics and runs out of the church because that's not what they want. And I don't know. I don't really like poking fun at that, because these are very life-changing events for people. So I also, as excited as I am, I also want to be sensitive to the people who are like, no, I don't want the 28th to get here. I don't want to know. I'm comfortable here. I don't. Mm-hmm. I would rather be uncertain than not.
Yeah,
and than not know.
And you're quite right. For so many people, this is an exciting time full of hope and, looking forward. But for other people, it can be a real letdown. It can be even devastating. Not for vicarage, but for our call service, my husband's parents flew out to be with us and to sit with us in the pew when he was, given that first call. And they are from the Northwest. And I know that my mother-in-law was really hoping that her husband, that my mother-in-law was really hoping that her son and daughter-in-law and 2 adorable children at that time would be coming closer to home, because we had already been away for so long. Mm-hmm. And then he got the call to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And she cried.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In the pew. And she, didn't make a big scene, no hysterics, but the Kleenex were required, because she knew that when she had given her son to the holy ministry, that there were no guarantees that she would get him back. But this was the word that, he would not be coming back home, and that her gift to God and to the church was going to be pretty absolute. Yeah. So yeah, for a lot of people, both, in the immediate family, but also beyond that, there's a real, okay, this is happening. Mm-hmm. It's final. This whole journey that started at seminary is going to end with them serving the church, and maybe not in the place and in the way that I had originally imagined it would go. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a big day.
Yeah, it's huge. It's gigantic. Yeah. So knowing that this is a very monumental event for people, and that we have a lot of either sem wives or pastors' wives or deaconesses, for that matter, in our Facebook group. And I actually would very much love to hear what other people's experiences have been, whether they've been through the vicarage placement service or the assignment of calls service, kind of what all of your perspectives are with the whole thing. But on Instagram, I posted some questions for people, for my followers on my account there. And I said, okay, A, what is the greatest piece of advice that you could give a seminary family on call day? And or what do you wish you had known on call day when your husband was being called or you were receiving a call as a deaconess? And it is so funny because I think there were at least 2, maybe 3 people who called it a roller coaster of emotions. So, like, I'm all about that life. So it's good to be mindful of that. I'm going to bring Kleenexes. Somebody said wear comfortable shoes.
That's good advice for life, although I'm really, really bad at following it.
Yeah, no, I'm all about that. Someone said eat something beforehand. That's not going to be a problem. Like, I'm going to be sitting in the pew, like, I'm going to get a corned beef sandwich at Carl's Deli up the road, and I'm just going to, like, just pull it out of my purse and start eating a corned beef sandwich during the service, just in case I forget to eat.
Please do that.
And a lot of people said things like, keep an open mind, be excited for it, because even if you get placed somewhere that you have no intention of being, it kind of helps break the fall a little bit. But also be open to, even if you are shipped somewhere that you don't see yourself or don't expect yourself to be, in a certain part of the country or in a certain sort of congregational setting, there can be so much joy and satisfaction in going to places like that. Even if prior to you are assigned somewhere where that's not going to work. I don't want to do a team ministry setting, or I don't do youth ministry, or, I want to do campus ministry, but you're putting me in the middle of Nowheresville. There's not a university for 500 miles. Like, that's entirely a possibility. That's a possibility for anybody who's receiving an assignment. But that doesn't take away from the possibility that might be the best and greatest year for you in the ministry until you receive your call. Hopefully there's joy in the call too. But I know of plenty of people, and I'm sure this is just in general, whether you're getting your first call or you're moving churches or something, you may initially get a call to somewhere where you're pretty uncertain about the whole setup. But then when God calls you to the next thing, there's like sobbing and tears, and the people that you never thought you would come to love, and the place that you never thought you would come to love, there is so much love there. And all you can think about now is how you're leaving that place and those people behind. So it's sort of committing yourself to this heart-wrenching sort of experience. I don't know that I want to do this, guys. What? So much heartbreak. I'm having an existential crisis right now.
Oh no.
What's happening?
No, you absolutely do, because, when it comes to these placements, God knows what we need more than we do.
That's right.
And he is going to give you what you need, even if it doesn't look like what you want or what you think you want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Listening to you talk about this, I was doing a little math in my head, and it was 30 years ago that my dad was at the call service for his first call.
Wow.
It was in 1991. And so, a 30-year little time travel. And so I was there, and I remember I would have been an early teenager, and I remember having that, like, anxious, but I wasn't worried or, like, scared, but had, like, that feeling of, like, huge pressure, anxious. And so I remember having to, like, go out to the seminary grounds and like run around to just burn off some of the energy while we waited to be able to go in and actually hear and get the news of what it would be and, you know, what this would mean for my life. And at that point, like, nobody had the internet, of course, at least not on their phones. And so I believe we had brought everybody, like, the thing was to bring atlases.
Yes.
Yep, I remember
of
that.
the country, so that like you could like flip through and locate these towns and figure out where were you actually going. And it was great. It was exciting, and it was a cool experience. I don't really remember much else from that. Probably part of it was like the high emotions sort of blocked out more of the specific details in my case, but I do remember being nervous and excited to find out what would this mean for the next 3 years of my life, because I was a freshman in high school at that point. And so where would I be finishing high school? What would that look like? What would that experience be? So.
Yeah, I did the math just as you were talking, and I think, the years all run together. I want to say it was 13 years ago for us with call day, and so 2 years more for that for vicarage. And there are very few times in your life when you absolutely know that within the next hour your whole trajectory is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very momentous. And it doesn't matter where you're going. You're going to hear the name and go, oh, I'm floored. You are going to be floored.
Astounding.
By what is happening in your life. I remember, we had the internet during call day, but we did not have smartphones everywhere. So yeah, I remember the road atlas under the pew thing. And just pulling it out, scrambling to figure out where on earth is this name that has just been read out. And as with many of our Lutheran congregations, maybe the name that was just read out is only a tiny pinprick on the map, and you might have a little trouble finding it. But I imagine that smartphones have made that whole task a little bit more discreet.
I want to gift you an atlas before call day now, so that you can bedazzle it and give it to you, so that you can make this big show of flipping through it, because that is totally you.
Dramatically,
yes,
pull it open.
You're like, beef.
Yes.
The other thing I remember is just, I was so thankful to have my in-laws with me on call day with my children, because otherwise I would have been alone. Because this is such a momentous thing that the men and women in the deaconess program who are receiving these assignments, placements, calls, they are set aside. And as much as I feel like this is our journey, the mere the simple geography of the way that the service is set up, with all the wall of black suits across the front of the sanctuary and all the rest of us removed, it reminds me that as much as this is our journey, this is his journey. This is his calling, and my calling will support that.
Yep.
But, I need to understand that whatever I'm feeling, he's feeling something way more weighty even than that, because this yoke of ministry is settling on his shoulders, and it is a wonderful burden. God helps you bear the burden, but it is a burden.
Yes.
And so I think that is my memory of both of these services, of feeling like, yes, we are going. Wait, it's not we. In this instance,
you aren't being
I
called.
am not receiving a divine call that will be fulfilled in my ordination.
I'll be unofficially called to there.
Same thing with the actual ordination, which is one of those high points in any ministry family's life. But again, I wasn't standing up there next to him when all the robed pastors placed hands on him. That was his thing.
Yep.
And so, there's this feeling of it's our thing, but it's his thing. And that's a weird thing to wrap your head around.
It's a tension that you have to hold,
especially
for sure.
when you have a real partnership in your marriage that you've got to sort of navigate around.
And
that
you're more
feeling.
popular than he is. I'm just kidding.
Let's be honest. Yeah.
Until now, Bree. Until now. Before this, I believe it. But from now on,
who knows?
He is the superstar.
Oh no, I didn't make that realization either.
Should have thought that through.
But no, I am glad that the whole technology point has been brought up, because if the coronavirus pandemic situation had happened any earlier in life, I cannot imagine the disconnect, because so I think last year they ended up doing joint services at both seminaries of both vicar assignments and calls. This year it's modified to discourage the spread of the virus, but it's basically each seminarian gets a +1 and that's it, and nobody else can show up. It's live streamed, but it isn't going to be like the big joyous grand affair that I've been to in the past. And that's, I mean, it's okay. It is what it is. But thanks be to God that like we have that capability to stream it online. It's 3:00 on Wednesday, April 20th. Oh wait, this is going to come on after.
It's available as archival footage. Look it up.
But even if you go to the website, there's like interactive maps and like you can sort and filter the data and like at least, because I don't spend too much time on the Fort Wayne website, but I feel like St. Louis's website, it's very like interactive and user friendly, and it's like obviously gone are the days of the big grandiose dramatic atlases, which is why it tickles me, Sarah, that you're gonna get me an atlas, because you know that I'm gonna make a scene with it. Like,
it's perfect.
You already know.
It's so perfect.
Already know. So I think the only other thing I really want to touch on that I have sort of wrestled with, I think, and you all may feel differently, because I think there are mixed opinions across the church about this. And I think that this is because we're not talking about, with a vicarage, you're not talking about the divine call. One of the things that I try to be mindful of in the call process is, yes, it is a spiritual deal. It dwells in the realm of the sacred. We cannot deny that. But I try to be mindful that God has means through which he does things. And so what I try to avoid in thinking about receiving a call or a vicarage assignment for that matter is that, you know, what I try not to do is fall into this state of spiritual enthusiasm that, you know, humans have no role in the call process. And I think they do. I think it's God working through them. But there's still that human element there. And so, point being, bottom line is we're going to go where God intends us to go no matter what. And so, you know, whatever sort of, you know, backroom deals are going, I'm not saying that that's what happens, but like, I don't know, people talk, it's a small synod, stuff happens, but like, for me, I just try to remember that no matter where we go in the country or the world, for that matter, is we're there because that's where God wants us. And so it is my hope for me and for Matt that it is a satisfying, fulfilling experience. And so, and even those families that are just wigging out right now because they didn't expect this and they're sort of beside themselves and they don't know what to do. My prayer for them, whether you're a St. Louis family or a Fort Wayne family, that this provides a spiritually edifying and formative experience for the family that can be cherished. And, you know, even if it doesn't feel good in the moment, it's something that people can look back on and really appreciate.
Yeah. It may be that the people who are receiving their placements will end up someplace that is just perfect, ideal, you know, a place where you feel happy and satisfied. And, you know, it may be that you end up in a place of pain.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
But God uses those experiences to shape you. And especially for the men and women who have raised their hands and said, I will serve the church. That does not necessarily mean that every day will be lovely. There may not be rainbows and lollipops and unicorns, hardly ever, let's be honest. But every experience God will use to mold you into the person he wants as his servant in the church. That sounded really like overly philosophical, but the long and the short is,
though. It's true.
Whether you're going someplace you want to or someplace you don't want to, you are within God's care and within his calling, and he will work with that in you, and you will look back. There have been good moments in my husband's ministry. There have been very bad moments. But every single one of those moments has made him into the pastor and chaplain that he is today. And without them, he would not be, as complete as he is. And so I'm so excited for you and for Matt Bree. I just keep coming back to this. And for all the people out there who are taking those steps into holy ministry, it's a good thing to do. Sometimes I get a look back at, I'll be honest, as a pastor's wife, I'd be lying if I said there weren't days when I've been bitter and said, why? Why couldn't you have been an accountant or an engineer or, anything but this? And yet...
That's already happened to me already. He hasn't even entered this pastorate yet.
And yet, really, I'm just so grateful for the life and the ministry that God has called him to, and through him, me and our children. It's a good thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna miss my husband's residential fieldwork church, which also happens to be where we are members and have been longtime members. And so it's going to be sad. It's going to be sad not to be involved in that congregation. And I don't really know what this upcoming year is going to bring, but I'm excited. I'm excited to meet some new people, and I'm excited to see Matt sort of grow spiritually and in his experience. And here we go, basically.
It's a great adventure.
I may listen to this episode the day it comes out and be like, shut up, Grzewski. You didn't mean any of that. Because I'm like, shut up. You knew all along this was the worst idea ever. But until then, I'm going to be happy about it.
And when we post this episode, we'll actually be able to post in the show notes where you guys are going. So this is like a weird time warp episode because we're recording before and posting after. So this will be fun when we know where you guys are going to end up for a year.
I cannot wait.
So we are all very excited for you, Bree, and for everyone else who, by the time this episode posts, will have gone through Call Day and will know where they are going to be either for the next year on vicarage or in their first calls, which is a very humbling and exciting thing. So, ladies who are SEM wives, pastors' wives, we'd love to hear your experiences too, and your insights and your thoughts about all of these things. You can join our group on Facebook and have some conversations about this. I'm sure there's more opinions. Maybe not. Join our group on Facebook in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge. You can also follow us on Instagram at Lutheran Ladies Lounge. Tag us in your posts about these episodes and we will share them in our story. You can also find all of our podcasts at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge or on your favorite podcasting app. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
I'm ready.
And I can tell you, you're not.
Views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Join our community on Facebook in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge.
So, how long has this even been, you guys? 35 minutes, that's it? Oh. Oh my gosh, did you hear that? Sorry. Oh. That's where it was. That's where it was. It came out. Gross. Oh.
Better out than in.
Oh.
I should swallow. Sorry.
Eat those chicken livers, girl.
You're like, is everybody ready? And I'm like,
Okay, now
yes, I am ready now.
Did you chew and swallow?
Need to cleanse your palate or anything before we... Okay, yep, cheers.
Oh, wait, hang on. For when I run out of kombucha, I have a sparkling water.
Yeah, crack that open first.
Yep, we're good. All supplied.
Oh man. Okay, here we go.